So today we are going to paint a wooden block with a yellow flower and green leaves. And what we're going to start with is we're going to coat the box with our base coat. And this base coat is a craft color. We kind of made it. Kind of have a neutral tone, a little bit of warmth, but not too warm. What we're going to do is we're going to cover all the sides first. Kind of a crisscross pattern. We're putting it on kind of thick so we can get it in one coat. This base coat works out really well that way because of the viscosity. It shows nice brush strokes and you can pretty much get everything done in one coat. And it dries pretty fast too at like a semi-gloss finish to satin. So you can see here I'm just getting all the sides covered with the small brush, and I'm kind of, going a pattern around the edge, but you can crisscross it either way. And once I get the sides done, I'm going to set it down and get the top covered. And once we get the top covered, you can pretty much go wet on wet, or you can let it dry. It's up to you. But pretty much the entire top of the box is going to get covered with texture in the piping bag. I'm just going to go around and make sure I don't have any drips or paint that collected around the corners, because sometimes when you're brushing it collects. And so once the box is completed, we're going to go ahead and start prepping our texture for pastry bag piping. We have two different tips. We have a leaf tip and a curved petal tip. And so what we do is we open the bags up. I kind of fold them so I can have an opportunity to hold them in my hand. It's like a handle, and kind of get them puffed up and opened up. And then I'm going to drop the tips in. And basically when I drop the tips in, I'm kind of lining the tip up. See how it's got like a curved side along the side of the bag, so the curved side doesn't go into the seam. So it doesn't matter which side. I'm going to push it in there, making sure it's lined up on the side. And just before it's all the way in, I'm going to cut it. And don't cut it too fat, because the pastry tip will slide all the way out and then you won't be able to use it. So it's better to do smaller cuts first and push it through to make sure it's going to fit really tightly before you make a large cut. And you can see there I cut it just right. I'm going to kind of just push it through there. It's kind of a tight fit, but that's good because it's safe. And so now that I have that bag ready, I'm going to prepare the next bag. Again, folding the top into that nice collar, opening it up. And again, that collar allows it so you can hold it. But the petal tip, I'm going to lay the side, the flat edge, along the flat edge of the bag just like that. So where it's open, you don't want it lined up on the seam, if that makes any sense. And again, cut a smaller hole and push it through there just to where the plastic clears the indentation that's cut out in the tip. And now basically both bags are prepared now for piping. And so now we're going to prepare our texture paint, and we're going to cut the tip off, probably about a ½ inch, maybe a little bit more. Get the bag firmly in your hand, and we're going to pipe a portion of the bag onto the pallets, the cardboard pallet. And I put about a dollop of the texture into each one. I'm going to save a little bit behind in case, my proportions get kind of mixed up. And I'm going to mix it kind of a light yellow at first, just kind of lightly yellow, because we're going to put the Hansa yellow in the bag. And so we have a two-tone of a deep yellow and a light yellow that comes out in the bag. So it's just lightly mixed, and it doesn't have to be mixed all the way. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the palette knife and we're going to coat it in the Hansa yellow and coat it on the inside of the bag, only on one side though, which is the indented curved side. And you can see here I'm only putting it on one side, so when it pipes out, you can clearly see the back and the front of the petal, and that means the inside of the petal will be darker and the outside will be lighter. It's just kind of a technique I created with the bags to get two-tone piping going on. And so now that bag is ready, you can see it's just all on one side. I'm going to go ahead and scoop in all of the yellowed texture paint. I'm trying to just I'm trying to let that paint, the yellow that's on the side, stay on the side. So I get a little bit in and tamp it down, and just keep filling the bag and trying not to stir the yellow and keeping that yellow on the side of the bag. And just keep scraping up all that paint and scooping it into the bag. And then after we get it in the bag, we're going to kind of tamp it down to get out the air bubbles. You see I'm kind of holding it from the top. Squirt a little bit of white on top. Still reserve some of that white in case we need it. We don't know our ratios exactly. And just by dropping it down and tamping it like that, you're getting out the air bubbles. And it's really important to practice the piping on the chipboard panel there, which is your palette, before you actually go on the wood panel. And we can put all that paint that you practice with back into the bag. So practice as much as you want, and then just scoop it back in the bag after you practice. The key to getting it piped really good is twisting the bag where it's really tight, and learn that pressure with your hand, so when it pipes out, it comes out in a nice little firm push. And then you're going to be pulling up as it's doing that, and you're going to release the tension, and you get these nice dollops of that petal. And so just definitely practice that on the palette. And what we got going here now is our leaves. And so we're taking a little bit of the yellow and a little bit of the green and making this kind of cool minty green. And we're going to mix that up first. And, you know, it doesn't have to be perfectly mixed, but try and definitely get most of the dark parts, you know, mixed in. Because we're going to add some of the dark parts back into the bag, just like we did the yellow. And so there you can see we're mixing the yellow and the green together, and that's what's actually going to go into the bag to get that two-tone color in the leaf pattern. So basically that is the green and the yellow mixed together. And it's okay, you know, depending on how dark you want that green, there's a little bit of white in there too. And so just like we did with the yellow, I'm going to just do a few areas with the darker green, and I'm lining it up on the side of the bag that's with the indentation. And then I'm just, you can see here I'm getting it all over around the outside instead of just one side. And so now the whole inside is coated with that green. And so the lighter green will go inside, and so when we pipe the flowers, they'll come out two-toned. Just try and scoop mostly just the lighter side of the paint into the bag, so you keep that separation. And see here I'm just lining it with some dark green streaks, just a couple streaks in there, so you'll see how that comes out. Not all over the bag, just like 2 lines. So when it comes out into there, you'll see when we pipe it, it'll have these streaks. I'm scooping all the paint into there, and I'm going to do the same thing, tamping it down and getting the air bubbles out. And I'm practicing, again, practice, and you can see the two-tone there. Twist the top, keep it tight, and learn that pressure on your hand. And it's like a pulse, a push and let go, and as you're drawing it up. And again, feel free to practice as much as you want on the palette. So with the yellow, we're just going to start in the center, just kind of pulling upward and just creating the center of the flower. It's not going to be the final part, and just keep going around and pulling up. And from the top of it, you'll see it definitely has a petaled flower look. And there you have it. And that stroke, you want to make sure that you let go as you're pulling out, so it doesn't just keep dragging out into this long petal that turns into a ununiform shape. And these are not organically correct flowers, so you know they don't have to be perfect. They are impression. And they're going to go back in, and I just kind of start filling in around. You just start looking for spots that need, and kind of working my way back into the center, building the center upward, and just keep piping in and building that flower out. And this nice lush petaled flower falling over the edge is okay, because it gives it just a lot of depth to it. It looks good when it comes over the edge. You want to make sure that you get the petals tight together too. That's why you go back in and fill in, because when it dries you might have gaps, and you don't want to have gaps, so you're just going to definitely go in and keep filling all the holes. And as we take the green, we're just going to just like pipe the green around the edges, that same kind of firm pulse pulling out. And I'm kind of not going the green all over. I'm just kind of have a primary corner there that I'm filling in, and then this other corner, but it's dominant in definitely one corner. You can see there I'm pulling it out over the edge to give it a nice overflow, textured, three-dimensional look. And so you can pop some in randomly, but it's more dense on one side, so it just has a nice balance. And you can put them in all over anywhere you want, but I like the idea of keeping it more dense green on one side. So go back in the yellow and fill any gaps that you see. If you see any holes, just go ahead and pop that yellow in. Again, we're not going for a perfectly organically correct flower, and of course you can try to make them organically correct, but you know, I like to make them very loose and enjoyable to paint and not trying to make them perfect. But that's pretty much it. I mean, you know, as long as I filled all the gaps in, it's pretty much ready to go.